Hey guys, welcome to this video. So in this video I will show you how you can use React.js with WordPress in order to create WordPress plugin. So let's get started. Alright, so before we start coding, let me show you the actual outcome of our project today. So this is the thing that we are gonna create. It's a very simple form into the settings option from where we can save some values. So behind the scene, obviously React will work, and we will be using the WordPress REST API. So when we try to change something like this, and if we click on save settings, so it will be saving automatically behind the scene, no page refresh, everything will be done with the React and REST API. Alright, so let's get back to our code editor. Now I have already set up our plugin structure in terms of saving the time, so let me explain to you now. So we have a classes folder which is totally empty now, and then we have a src folder in which we have a file which is index.js, and it is also totally empty. And then we have a main file like wp react kickoff.php, which is a representative of this plugin main file. And then we have some other files in terms of npm configuration and webpack configuration. So everything's are currently empty. Let's start with the package.json. So let me bring up the code that is necessary for package.json from my GitHub repository, because I do not want to waste time with these things. So these are the things. Let me briefly explain to you. It is a very straightforward thing, as we already know what is package.json. So we have a name, version, and the entry file is index.js. We have some dependencies like Axios, React, and React DOM, and then we have some dependencies like this one, webpack CLI. We're using some Babel code things and transforming this JSX into the JS. And finally we have basically two important scripts to run. The build will be running the webpack, and it will be creating a dist folder inside the main directory as we run the npm build, and also start will do the same, but the exception is it will also start watching our scripts. Alright, now let's get back into the webpack.config.js, which is also empty now. So let me bring some code here as well from my GitHub repo. Alright, so it is also very straightforward. I'm just gonna briefly explain to you. Okay, let me just format the thing a bit. Okay, alright, so here as you can see, the entry file will be our src index.js, as we have already created this, and the output directory will be created as soon as we run the npm build or npm start. It will create a dist folder, and inside that there will be a bundle.js, which we will be including later part of our coding. And then these are the loaders that we are just dealing with, the JS file and Babel loader, and we are using this plugin, and rest of the things are actually not so much need to have any explanation. Alright, now the next thing will be Babel Rc, so we need to add some code here as well. Let me bring that too, and these are the codes. So let me close it. So this is also very basic things. We are here just mentioning some plugins that we are gonna use, and the rest of the things are okay. Alright, so now let's move back and open our integrated terminal and try to install the all the npm related packages, and hit enter. So it will install all the dependent and dev dependency packages. So let's come back when it's done. Alright, so as you can see, our npm packages has been installed. So there is the node module folders inside our plugin directory. Now let's clear this screen. Okay, so now let's run like npm start and hit enter. So it should run all the scripts and create a dist folder without any error. Let's see. Yes, our script is running. As you can see, this is a dist folder has been created. Inside that there's a bundle.js, which is right now configuring all the necessary things it's required for running everything smoothly. And also, as you can see, our command is not halt down, it is watching our changes. Alright, now let's close this integrated terminal and closing up these files as well. Now let's open this wp react kickoff.php file, which is the main file of our plugin. So let's add some necessary comments real quick. Alright, so we have added our necessary comments so that WordPress can understand this is a plugin. And now let's add some other things, like let's define a constant. If it is not found, then we are not gonna allow the users or anything to access this script. So abs path, then exit, like so, and if we can say no direct access allowed. Alright, so let's check back to our admin real quick so that we can verify that our plugin has been showed up into the WordPress backend. Alright, so as you can see, our wp react kickoff, this plugin is being showing by the WordPress plugin directory. So that means we are doing well. Alright, now the next thing we'll be adding some more things into our this wp react kickoff.php. So let's define some plugin constants first. Like so, let's define like let's say wp react kickoff, and then the path, and we can use trailing slash it, and then we're gonna say plugin dir path, like so, and then the actual magic variable of PHP to define the files. Alright, so why it is giving me error? I don't know why it is saying that. Let me close the file and reopen it. Okay, yeah, now it's gone. Sometimes it's a bug from the editor. Alright, now let's duplicate this and add another URL constant like wprk URL, and this time we're going to use plugins URL like this, but it's gonna have another parameter, like if we want to have a slash or forward slash in front of it. Alright, so I think we are good here. Our definition of this plugin constant is done. Now let's add or load some necessary scripts. Loading scripts like so. So let's call the hook add action, and it should be admin enqueue scripts because we are dealing with the admin area. So we can say admin scripts, and we're gonna use load scripts function to do that. And let's create that function like this. Alright, now let's add some scripts. So at first we need to do wp enqueue script, like so. And here what we are going to do, let's add the ID of the thing of the script, like WP React React like kickoff, and then we need to use this constant WP Rc URL, and then we are gonna go to the dist, and inside the dist we have this bundle.js. So remember, everything will be wrapped up into this bundle.js. That's why we need to include this like that way. Alright, so after that we need to add some dependencies. Let's add Jquery, although we might not need, but if you need, having the dependency of Jquery is nice. So also the WP element, and then the version, so let's use WP rand for now, and finally let's load it into the footer, so we need to keep it as true. Alright, now the next thing will be, we are gonna add some localized variables into that script because we're gonna need those. So let's do WP localize script, and then we need to say the ID of the script, kick off. Okay, now let's say let's name the app localizer as a object to access into the script, and then add some localized variable. Like what we need API URL. Okay, so how we can get that, we can say home URL and then /wp json. That's it. After that we're gonna need to add our own URL paths, and also let's add a nonce, which is very important, that I'm gonna explain to you later part. And let's create a nonce for the REST API. So WP create nonce, and inside that we need to add WP REST underscore REST, like so. So I think that's it for this file. I'm just keeping very simple. You can make your own way to create this kind of a file that I have already shown into my previous videos. If you are going to very fancy and very unique way, you can do that, but this is for the simplicity. I have just added to define two constants and just loading our necessary scripts. That's it. Alright, so now let's go back into the classes folder and create a file, and let's name it class create admin menu. Create admin menu.php, not like that, admin menu.php, like so. So what this file will add, this will create an admin menu into the WordPress dashboard. So let's say like this file will create admin menu page. Alright, so now let's create the class like WP React kickoff create admin menu page or create admin page. Alright, now let's add a public construct function like so. So inside that we are gonna need to call a hook, and which is admin menu hook, and then we are going to hook this with our custom function like create admin menu. Alright, so now let's create our create admin menu. So let's say public function create admin menu, and inside that we're gonna add something like let's add capability variable. Okay, so capability will be manage options, and then let's add a slug variable also, and the slug we can keep WP-RK settings like this. And here we need to add or call a WordPress function like admin menu page, and inside that we need to add or pass a couple of things. The first one is the label of it, so we can say WP React kickoff, and then our text domain name like WP React kickoff, like so. And the second thing also for the labeling, so you can keep both the things same. And the next thing is obviously the capability, and next is slug, and finally we need two more things. The first thing is the callback function for showing the template, so we can say menu page template. Alright, and the next thing will be the icon. So let's do something like what we can say dash icons, let's say body icons, and replies. Now this kind of a name you can find into the dash icon documentation of the WordPress. Alright, so far I think we are good, but we need to create this menu page template function. So let's do that. It will actually contain the HTML of the template. So here what we can do, let's not do like this, do a echo statement here, and here we're gonna pass div class, let's say wrap. Wrap is a default WordPress class which will help us into the settings page to use this wrap class, and which will give us a nice padding. So inside that we will have another class with the ID. Let's close that, and let's add a ID here. So let's say WP-RK admin app. So this is the main area where our everything from the React will be appended in. Alright, so I think we are done with this, but before closing that we need to actually make this class appeared into our things or our project. So let's do like new WP-RK create admin. So we are just running this class from this or inside this file. Now the next thing what we need to do, actually we need to add this file into our main wp-react.php. So let's do that, like require once, and then WP-RK path. Remember, when we are using or trying to use the actual path and including the PHP, we are going to use this WP-RK path, which is the plugin's dir path. And whenever we are going to add some assets like JS, CSS, or any images, we are going to use plugins URL or WP-RK URL. Alright, so now it is into the classes, and then class create admin menu.php. Alright, now let's go back into our admin and check that whether this menu is appearing or not, or do we have anything, any errors or something. So right now there is nothing like WP React. So let's refresh it. And we are not seeing anything because we haven't activated our plugin. So let's do that. And okay, so we have an error, but let me check. Alright, so what is it is saying that we are using app localizer, which is an undefined constant. So let's go back into, I think it's 25. So as you can see, we actually need to add this inside the quotation, not as a plain thing, so that will assume that it's a constant. So now let's try back again and hit a refresh. Alright, so this time the error is gone, but we do not have any menu inside this, so let's check that out, that one. Alright, so I think I found the issue why it is not showing up. So as you can see, this name has been wrong, it's misspelled. So let's do that again. Construct like so, and let's remove this tie. Okay, so now let's our plugin is already activated, so now let's hit a refresh. So this time hopefully it should show up. So as you can see, our WP React kickoff is there. So if we click on that, we should see a menu page which is blank. Now for making it making sure it, so let's add something. Let's say React settings. Alright, so if we hit refresh, then we should see that React settings message. So we are sure that this is coming from this template. Alright, so now let's remove that. Okay, so now it's time to get started with our React things. So let's open our index.js, which is totally empty now. Let's create some other things as well. Let's add app.js, and also let's create a folder called components, and inside the components let's create another file which we can say settings.js. Alright, so let's get back into the index.js, and here let's import our React from React, and then let's also import React DOM or from obviously React DOM, and let's also import our app from .app, which we are going to create or fill up with some codes later. Okay, so now let's add some more codes. So let's do document.add event listener, and let's do like when DOM content is loaded, so DOM content, okay, loaded, and then we're gonna fire a function. Okay, so let's take element equal to not this, document.get element by id, and our placeholder id is this one. So let's copy this and paste it here. Okay, so basically what we are doing, we will be using a React DOM.render function to render our everything into that ID, but before that we are checking that whether this ID exists into that page or not. Otherwise it's gonna throw, or it will show an error into the console. So preventing that error into the console, we are checking that whether this ID is available or not. So let's do that, like type of element, if it is not equal to undefined, and let's say element is not equal to null. So if so, then we can say this ID exists. So now we can say React DOM.render, and inside that we're going to use this app syntax to identify those things. So we can say document.get element by id again, and let's just paste this WP Rc admin app. Alright, So that will be it from here, but we gonna need some more things into app.js. So let's do that one. Right now this app.js is totally empty. So here what we can do, we can say import React from React, not React DOM but from React, and also let's do something. But before that, what actually we need to do, or let's do like import, we are going to create a settings page later, so that is why I just wanted to create that first, but let's do that in this way. So settings, from it should be come from component and settings, which is totally empty now, but in a moment we can fill that up. So let's create a function here like app, and here we're gonna return our JSX from here. So we can say react.fragment. We can take it, we can add the react fragment first like so, and inside that fragment we can pass the settings tag here, and also at the end we need to export it. So export default, obviously this app. All right, so far so good. From the index we have imported app, and from the app now we're gonna import this settings.js, so which is obviously totally empty, in where actually our main things will be happening. So let's import React, and here we're gonna use some hooks. So remember, I'm going to use the advantage of functional components of React, because I actually like those things, because this gives us to use, or this gives us the ability to use the new React hooks and context API and other new things. So that's why I like this way. So let's add use state and use effect. All right, from React like so. And also we're gonna need Axios later, so let's just import it for now. All right, so importing is done. Let's define a constant with these settings. That will be our main functions from these settings, and obviously we're gonna need to export it. So let's just export it. So export default settings. All right, now for the testing, let's just return something. So let's do React fragment again, React fragment, and let's just put something like that, hello from React. All right, so let's check our console whether it is running perfectly. Yes, we are not seeing any errors, so it should be fine. And let's go back into our admin and hit a refresh to check our message. So sure enough, it is coming from our React.js right now, as it is saying hello from React. Alright, so now let's clear this thing and let us create a basic form with these three things. So let's do like form tag, and inside that we can pass ID, and we can name it WPRK settings form, and then let's keep it like this for now, and then let's add a table. Now I'm going with this format because WordPress gives us very nice setups if we use these native things from the WordPress. So let's add a class name, and here we will say form table, which is a class of WordPress, and role, let's say presentation. All right, inside the table we do have a table body, so let's do that, and then tr. So inside tr we're gonna have td with the scope of row. Alright, so I think this should be th, because the first thing we are going to use as header. Alright, so inside the th we're gonna have a label. Alright, so inside the label we need to say for, but here we need to say in a bit different way because it's JSX. So we can say HTML for, it will be first name, and let's label up it with first name like so, and then we have a td. So inside the td we are going to add an input with id of first name, and then the name we can give first name, and then the value we'll define it later, and the rest of the things we can add afterwards. And finally we can have a class name, and it is obviously the regular text, which is also a default function of WordPress. Alright, so let's just check it real quick how it looks. As you can see, this has been the first label. Alright, so now let's real quick add some other things. So let's just copy this and paste 2 times. Then we can say last name, and let's copy this last name and last name, and then we have email, alright, and finally what we need a submit button. So what we can do, after the table inside the form, we can say, we can take a p tag. Alright, so here we can say button, and type would be submit, and obviously there needs to be a class name to make it nice. So let's say button primary. Alright, and then we can say save for now, and inside this class we can say submit as well. Okay, so let's add a header also, because I've noticed that there is no header. So let's add a h2 here. Let's say React settings form. Alright, so now let's hit a refresh or reload the page, and we should see a very nice form which is coming from our React template. Alright, so I think this video is getting too long, so let's keep it here for the first part. Into the next parts we're gonna see the rest of the things. So see you in the next part. Thank you.